Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Electrical, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Sectional Committee of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, it is my pleasure to warmly welcome all the participants to today's webinar titled Empowering Sri Lanka's Green Transition, Leveraging Carbon Credits and Renewable Energy Certificates for National Sustainability. We are delighted to see the participation of engineers, academics, industry professionals, students, and sustainability enthusiasts joining us this evening. As Sri Lanka moves towards a low carbon future, understanding the opportunities presented by carbon credits and renewable energy certificates is becoming increasingly important. Today's session will provide valuable insights into these emerging mechanisms and their role in supporting national sustainability goals. Following the presentation, we will have a dedicated Q&A session where participants will have the opportunity to raise questions and engage directly with our speaker. So first of all, we'll now move on to the introductory video, which is presented by our very own speaker. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
So I think we can start the introductory video, right?
Yeah. I'm looking for the screen.
All right. Okay. No worries. Take it
Okay,
in.
okay. Welcome. I think you can see the screen now.
Yeah. Excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As you spend the next 2 weeks debating, negotiating, persuading, and compromising, as you surely must, it's easy to forget that ultimately the emergency climate comes down to a single number: the concentration of carbon in our atmosphere. The measure that greatly determines global temperature. And the changes in that one number is the clearest way to chart our own story, for it defines our relationship with our world. For much of humanity's ancient history, that number bounced wildly between 180 and 300. And so too did global temperatures. It was a brutal and unpredictable world. At times, our ancestors existed only in tiny numbers. But just over 10,000 years ago, that number suddenly stabilized, and with it, Earth's climate. We found ourselves in an unusually benign period, with predictable seasons and reliable weather. For the first time, civilization was possible, and we wasted no time in taking advantage of that. Everything we've achieved in the last 10,000 years was enabled by the stability during this time. The global temperature has not wavered over this period by more than plus or minus 1 degree Celsius. Until now. Our burning of fossil fuels, our destruction of nature, our approach to industry, construction and learning are releasing carbon into the atmosphere at an unprecedented pace and scale. We are already in trouble. The stability we all depend on is breaking. This story is one of inequality as well as instability. Today, those who've done the least to cause this problem are being the hardest hit. Ultimately, all of us will feel the impact, some of which are now unavoidable.
My world is melting.
You think you have control, we actually have no control.
I'm absolutely terrified to bring a child to this world.
Is this how our story is due to end? A tale of the smartest species doomed by that all too human characteristic of failing to see the bigger picture in pursuit of short-term goals. Perhaps the fact that the people most affected by climate change are no longer some imagined future generation, but young people alive today. Perhaps that will give us the impetus we need to rewrite our story, to turn this tragedy into a triumph. We are, after all, the greatest problem solvers to have ever existed on Earth. We now understand this problem. We know how to stop the number rising and put it in reverse. We must recapture billions of tons of carbon from the air. We must fix our sights on keeping 1.5 degrees within reach. A new industrial revolution, powered by millions of sustainable innovations, is essential and is indeed already beginning. We will all share in the benefits: affordable clean energy, healthy air, and enough food to sustain us all. Nature is a key ally. Wherever we restore the wild, it will recapture carbon and help us bring back balance to our planet. And as we work to build a better world, we must acknowledge no nation has completed its development because no advanced nation is yet sustainable. All have a journey still to compete, so that all nations have a good standard of living and a modest footprint. We're going to have to learn together how to achieve this, ensuring none are left behind. We must use this opportunity to create a more equal world, and our motivation should not be fear, but hope.
Can we fix climate problem in one generation? My answer would be yes, we have to.
We need to not just to talk about what we can do, but to do what we can.
This is a challenge that we should try to solve in a quick way with a long-term vision.
It comes down to this: the people alive now, the generation to come, will look at this conference and consider one thing. Did that number stop rising and start to drop as a result of commitments made here? There's every reason to believe that the answer can be yes. If working apart, we are a force powerful enough to destabilize our planet, surely working together, we are powerful enough to save it. In my lifetime, I've witnessed a terrible decline. In yours, you could and should witness a wonderful recovery. That desperate hope, ladies and gentlemen, delegates, excellency, is why the world is looking to you and why you are here. Thank you.
Yes, hope you enjoyed the introductory video, which gave a kickstart to our today's topic. And once again, I would warmly welcome all of you who joined today for our webinar on behalf of the Electrical, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Sectional Committee on behalf of the IESL. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker for this evening, Engineer Indike Dassanayake. A proud alumnus of the University of Peradeniya, graduating in 1980, Engineer Dassanayake has etched his mark across the generation, transmission and distribution landscapes of Sri Lanka during an illustrious 35-year career at the Ceylon Electricity Board. Rising to serve as additional general manager, his career has defined the intersection of advanced technology and public utilities. He founded the pioneering control and instrumentation frameworks at the Mahaveli Hydropower Complex and was the visionary who introduced computerized controls to the Samanlawava Hydropower Station. His freelance software systems were optimizing local industries from tea factories to automated manufacturing. Even before the dawn of the internet age, he designed and created an online job bank accessible globally through dial-up modems. Yet, his technical acumen is matched entirely by his commitment to preserving the environment, whether transforming a tunnel mucking dump site into a beautiful garden as the chief engineer of the Kukuliganga Power Station, hosting the 2007 National Conference on Climate Change or representing the CEB at the UNEP-UNDP Regional Technical Dialogue on INDCs in Jordan. He has spent decades shaping our national climate response, where he serves as the head of the Low Emission Initiatives and IT Development. Alongside a team carrying a rich heritage in global UN climate frameworks, he now shapes carbon neutral action plans, low emission strategies, and proprietary climate software for corporate giants, international agencies, and government worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm virtual welcome to Engineer Indike Dassanayake. The floor is now yours, sir.
Thank you, Lakshani. I think I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Give me a second. I'm looking for the sharing. Right, okay. Can you see the presentation window?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Yep. Okay. Right. Thank you. Let's start. As Lakshani said, the presentation title given to me is Empowering Sri Lanka's Green Transition, Leveraging Carbon Credits and Renewable Energy Certificates for National Sustainability. Under that, I was given some subtitles. But before I start the presentation, I have to give a little disclaimer. Now, the information I am presenting, you don't have to read all this, but information given are AI and web sourced statistical data. So I believe they are accurate, but don't take them as any strictly correct values. They take them as approximate values. And then these frameworks for carbon trading or the emission trading, and then renewable energy certificates, they are very exhaustive. So now this, what I am covering is only a sample. It is not exhaustive, right? And the opinions I am presenting are only my personal opinions. They do not represent the opinions or any directives of the government, IESL, or any regulatory bodies or corporate institutions, including my present employer. And the information provided is for educational purposes only and not to be used for decision making. Decision making requires more extensive research. And these are the topics actually given to me by the IESL. The current Sri Lankan energy landscape and with the roadmap to 2030 and 2050. These 2 years are some important landmarks in the climate arena. 2050, most of the countries in the world are trying to become carbon neutral. That means no emissions are made by the countries. And then the mechanics of IREX. IREX stands for International Renewable Energy Certificates and carbon credit within the local context as much as possible. So for some of you, these words might not be very familiar. I will try to explain them as we go on. And the another topic is the importance of ISO standards. ISO stands for International Standards Organization, and 14064, 14067, 14068. These are generally for calculating carbon emissions, GHG emissions actually, from projects or products and things like that. So these are not the only standards. I will touch on all this in a broader way. Then the way forward for local industries to monetize green attributes. I have some reservations about the monetizing part, but we will talk about what we can, the industries can or are forced to do. I would prefer to say like that. And this is the way actually the order given to me, but I would prefer to take the verification first, the importance of verification, and then take the economic opportunity for professionals and students, because this also is included in the economic opportunities. So let's start with the first thing first, the current Sri Lankan energy landscape. Because I have now changed the sequence, right? The current Sri Lankan energy landscape. Actually, we will be talking about the electricity transition, electricity landscape, because energy covers a very big area, and it's not much relevant to our topic as well, about carbon credits and especially the IREX, renewable energy certificates, that's related only to electricity. Then the current generation landscape and expansion pathways to 2030, 2050. This is very relevant to our topic, and it is a mandatory thing and it is an approved thing, because this is one of the most acclaimed plans in the region. Consistently updated, legally mandated, least cost optimization framework. Long-term generation expansion plan, LTGEP. Now, this is covering a period of 20 years, but in general, what happens is governments change in about 5 years, and then the governments do not actually agree with the plan sometimes, right? So, but anyway, this is a legally required thing because it is approved by PUCSL, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, who is the authority appointed by the Electricity Act. I think now it is again revised, but the one I know is I think 2000, Act of 2000, and the current one might not be much different. So after the PUCSL approves the plan, everybody is supposed to follow that. What happens is not that same thing, because although the plans are there, people are not following the plans due to various reasons. Okay, this is where we are now, right? There are three things actually, 3 points. One is, as at 2024-2025, we have about 60% of total installed capacity as renewable energy. Much of that is hydro, of course, right? Because of that, we have a big vulnerability of hydrological vulnerability. If it doesn't rain during the drought periods, we have to go for expensive and dirty thermal alternatives. That is oil, mainly diesel, right? And then our base load is relying on thermal. Of course, coal. Lakvijay is shouldering about 40% of our total demand. So that is the primary base load. And it is the anchor of the power system as well. Unless we find a clean energy source to work as the backbone, we cannot replace the coal, because that otherwise we will have to go for a more expensive thing. So probably the clean resource which could actually replace the coal will be nuclear. But people have various reservations on that, but it is not a polluting one. It does not produce any carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gas emissions. And from that plan, we have another slide. Now 2025 to 2029 is the era of grid modernization. This is something we must do because everybody is interested in connecting more and more solar and wind to the system, but the transmission network must be ready for that. So deploying grid scale battery energy storage systems. Now some people are starting to install battery energy storage systems at home level. This is at a bigger level, right? But I think it is still only the beginning. I think in Australia, they are working on something at the moment. Some I can't remember exactly how big it is, but anyway, but by 2029, probably we might be able to do if there is the commitment and the political leadership. Because the solar and wind power generation is not very stable. They always fluctuate. So we need the battery storage. Earlier, we were talking about using pumped storage hydro. But now that era is gone. Now the future belongs to battery storage. Right. Then 2030 target is mandated 70% share of total electricity generation. This is different from the installed capacity, right? Installed capacity, already we have 60%. Installed capacity is like having a big pot. How big is your pot? But actual generation is how much rice you have cooked. Because you may have a big pot, but if you don't have raw rice, you can't prepare cooked rice. So if you do, whether you have big hydro generators, if you don't have rain, if you don't have water, you can't run them. One good thing about the coal and other the fossil fuel based power stations is as long as you can supply the fuel, they can work at least 80% of the time. That is the only good thing about that. Other things are bad. Then 2050 vision is carbon neutrality. Most of the countries in the world are trying to become carbon neutral, no emissions at all. So absolute decarbonization. And for that, we will have to use pump storage, hydro, battery energy storage systems, and LNG, hydrogen blends. But LNG is also a polluting thing. I don't know why they are putting it like that. Here, if you want to go 100% carbon neutral, LNG is also should be out, right? Okay, now we will go to the mechanics of IREX and carbon credits. Now, these two have some similarities and some differences. So we will talk about that. Now, initially, there's nothing, but then some people will build a renewable energy project, solar, wind, or whatever it is, and maybe even biomass. Why should they build it? They will build it to supply green electricity. Green means it's not the color. Green means it is not emitting greenhouse gases, which is causing the global warming to the atmosphere. So they will have to give it to a grid. There must be a grid, right? Sometimes you can have for your own generation, but generally you are selling to the grid. This mechanism is applicable generally if there is a grid, right? And they will pay back in money. The first thing we have to note here itself is this project is viable under this condition, financially viable, right? Otherwise, nobody is going to do this project. So after that, when you have this power, the power grid will reduce fossil fuel burning, and that will reduce their grid emission factor. That is a factor which says how much carbon dioxide, let's say carbon dioxide for the moment, how much carbon dioxide you are emitting to the atmosphere for each megawatt of power, megawatt hour of power, or kilowatt hour of power, whatever. Then this causes emission reductions, and those emission reductions actually happen because of this RE project. So the emission reduction is their property. Electricity is given to the grid. It becomes the property of the grid. But the emission reduction is theirs. So they can do something which is called the carbon credit path. This is a rather long process. Actually, this is the old process. Still, it is applicable, it is available. You have to write a project identification note and submit to the carbon credit issuing organization, write a project design document, and that document has to be validated by someone else. It's an audit actually, and then the project is registered, and after that, you have to construct the project. Now, when you do these things, the project will be also under construction, and then the project will start generating this renewable energy, and the amount of energy supplied will be monitored, and someone else will have to verify again another audit. And then, based on that, something will be issued called carbon credits. So there are various paths. Now, internationally transferable mitigation outcomes. These can be solved between countries. Actually, it's meant to be from country to country. And Article 6.4 emission reductions, these are called compliance and voluntary. This compliance means in some countries, unfortunately not in Sri Lanka yet, industries are mandated. They have to legally, they are bound to reduce their emissions, report their emissions and things like that. Unfortunately, we don't have that mandatoriness up to now, I believe. 2 years ago, it was not there, right? Then these two are actually United Nations registries, because UN was the first organization which started on this decarbonization. I mean, that means reducing the emissions and all that, right? And there are other registries where it's a voluntary thing, and gold standard, another voluntary thing. Then I think most of you will be hearing for the first time, Sri Lanka also has a carbon crediting scheme. And this one has two paths. One is an international path, one is the local path. This is less stringent, but this is the international one, which these credits can be sold internationally. And whichever path you follow, you can generate carbon credits. Carbon credit means avoided carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. Let's just say carbon dioxide for the moment, and how many tons of carbon dioxide you have stopped from emitting, right? Then buyers will use mainly to offset scope 1 emissions. We will come to what scope 1 means actually. What scope 1 means actually, a company or a firm emits some carbon dioxide directly through what operations they are carrying out, right? After they do that, they offset it. Okay, we have polluted, but we have purchased carbon credit, so that is offset. So that is the one path, right? Now here, you can only go through one path only, because one main concern is you must avoid double counting. So you register the same project here and there and everywhere. No, it's not possible, right? This is one path, carbon credit path. The other path is the new REC path, renewable energy certificate. Now, this path is actually trading actual carbon emission reductions. Here, they are not trying to trade that. The renewable energy label type of thing, the attribute, that is what they are selling. So, like here, there is another series of steps, but shorter. Evidence, you have to provide the evidence that you are building a renewable energy power plant. And a device means a power plant actually for them. So that has to be registered. It's simple. Now here the registration has 4 steps. And then the generation will be monitored and it is verified and not credits. Renewable energy certificates will be issued. That is how this happens. Now, there is a company called Green Certificate Company in United Kingdom. They are the authorized people who can register renewable energy projects in Sri Lanka and some other countries as well. They are serving several countries. And through them, you can generate IREX. IREX means International Renewable Energy Certificates. One IREC means 1 megawatt hour of electricity. No emission is considered there, right? So this is relatively easier to do. So after you do this, actually there are other parts as well. Now this IREC is one path where you can have the renewable energy certificates. There are other issues like renewable energy certification companies. REGO means renewable energy guaranteed origin. I think Australia has something like that. This is transferable guaranteed renewable energy, something like that. So all these things are called energy attribute certificates. These are not emission reductions. These are only the attribute. But that can be used for, it cannot be used to offset scope 1 emissions because these emissions you have already done directly by your company. These can be used for some other purpose. Buyers will use mainly to avoid scope 2 and 3 emissions. I will come back to the scope 2 and 3. These are actually indirect emissions related to what your company is doing, but you are not directly emitting. One very popular example is electricity. The company is using electricity, someone else is generating electricity. So the emission happens there, but it is there, the scope 2 emission for the company. Scope 3 is upstream and downstream of the product. So raw material, extraction, transport, and on the other hand, what happens to your product when it is used and when it is discarded, right? So this is a big slide, but I think I have cleared it. One important thing is you can't have both pathways, right? Generally, you can take only this path or this path, right? Then the importance of ISO standard, but what are the standards and why do we need these? That is a big question. So actually, now our original title is regarding our industries, how we can assist them, right? So industries have to go to the market to sell their products. So what does the market want? And because of that, we have to comply with some things. This is where it comes, right? Now, when we go to the international markets, they are concerned in various categories, environmental and sustainability aspects. So the governing factors are carbon emissions and emission standards, whether you are following standards. That is where the problem comes. And there are mechanisms like European Union's carbon border adjustment mechanism. Simply said, it is like this. The people inside European Union say, okay, our electricity is very clean. So we are paying a lot of money for that. If our electricity is not green, we are paying a tax, emission tax. But you import various things from underdeveloped countries or developing countries, whatever, and their electricity is very dirty, and they give it at a cheaper price. So we are at a comparatively disadvantage. And so when you cross the border, you have to pay a tax for the emission, not for something else. Now this CBAM is effective from 1st January 2026. At the moment, it is affecting steel, aluminium, cement, and hydrogen imports. And by the way, UK, although they are in the EU, they try to operate separately. Their CBAM is coming next year, 1st January 2027. Then, if you go to the next section, they are asking about good agricultural practices, GAP. Now in Sri Lanka, I have seen there are some GAP labels. It's good thing because these are the standards ensuring food safety, sustainability, and worker welfare. So this compliance is mandatory, right? And then sanitary and phytosanitary. Phytosanitary means the plant hygiene. So they are worried about how much pesticide residues are there in the products that you are sending, what additives, what contaminants, what pest control you have done. They are really worried about that. So we have to follow the standards and human rights and fair labor. And if you are not using child labor, forced labor, unsafe working conditions, they will impose bans, right? And fair trade certifications means now actually the consumer demand is leading. Even if the governments are not asking for that. Now we are exporting various things, I think. Sportswear, not only garments, right? Garments are also exported. Now people like Nike, when you export shoes to them, they say, we want this and these conditions met, not only safety standards and all that, but the emission standards as well. So we have to follow those, right? And then we get the tariff barriers. The notorious GSP, we have been talking so much. So actually, that is a positive thing anyway. Because you grant low tariff rates if you are compliant with various conditions which are imposed by the standards. Then there are technical regulations, testing, and things like that. Now, for example, you must have CE marking when you export something to Europe. And then the requirement for the end-to-end digital tracking, right? Now, for example, I can remember a long time ago, CEB imported wooden poles from South Africa. They keep the records of wooden poles for 20 years. Can we just say we keep records of anything for that long? So that is how the world is working, right? Okay, these are the whole set, exhausting. Right. Now we are talking about the export industry. So what are the main exports and what are the general barriers? Our biggest exports nowadays is apparel, about 3.5 to 3.7 billion. Main buyers USA, UK, Germany, Italy. The barriers, high energy and labor costs. And then shifting global fashion, fast fashion compliance. This is where they are asking about how much emission you have made, right? Then next is tea, coffee, and spices. 1.1 to 1.5 billion sent into Iraq and blah, blah, blah. And here, fertilizer, pesticide, and policy disruptions. These are, again, have to be uh, controlled according to the standards, right? Now, you know, the fertilizer also generates nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas and which also causes global warming. So emission standards are applicable even there. And of course, the tea processing, everything, emissions are coming. Then rubber and rubber products, another around 1 billion. There are supply constraints, right? And then coconut products, normal manufacturing and things are there. And even gem industry, it has been going on so long. But now they are asking for modern grading laboratories and things like that. So these are the barriers. And now our export-oriented businesses have to balance. We have to have low production costs. Otherwise, nobody will buy. But on the other side, you have product safety standards, supply chain traceability, no deforestation, sustainability, good agricultural practice, fair wages, and at the bottom, low emissions and carbon footprint. So it's very difficult to balance. It's a balancing act. So with this, we have to come to the global environmental accounting and attribute systems, right? Now there are three pillars. One is MRV and accounting standards. MRV stands for monitoring, reporting, and verification. Just by monitoring, nobody will accept what we are telling. You have to report it to some international organization which has a reputation as an independent authority. And it should be verified by an auditor. Auditor accredited by the monitoring, the report receiving authority, right? And then crediting standards are to be used globally. So there are so many methodologies which are actually the standards, right? Don't worry, we don't go to talk much about this. There are so many. Now, when it comes to emissions, there are energy, which includes renewable energy and other things also. There are 90 plus United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC methodologies. Earlier it was Clean Development Mechanism. So they prepared so many methodologies, right? For transport, waste and all that. So they have more than 250 methodologies. And now there are some other people. ICAT means Initiative for Climate Action Transparency. This transparency thing is a very important thing, word in climate action. Whatever you are doing has to be transparent. Now, this is actually covering the policies, government policies, and their effects on climate change. So ICAT has some toolboxes and GASMO for a long time, and MRV models to calculate emissions. I am proud to say that my company has produced two for the transport sector and waste sector for ICAT. We are their one of their technical partners. Then JICA has Japan International Cooperation Agency. They have their own methodologies. Gold Standard, another carbon crediting organization, they have 80 plus methodologies. Vera also has 200, another carbon crediting people. But most of these are based on the CDM methodologies developed by the UN. That is one good thing. But some variations are there. Now, the IPCC, International Panel on Climate Change, which was the original body which looked into the climate change in 1996 or something, they started. They have 5 volumes of standards and regulations and things like that, guidelines, right? So the CDM, the Clean Development Mechanism, was the backbone for methodologies. And then that was mainly for offsetting life cycle emissions. And then the ICAT is covering policies, and JICA mainly have bilateral infrastructure investments. Now, say for example, if Sri Lanka, okay, at the moment, Bangladesh is doing a transmission line project, right? So JICA is giving some aid to use low loss conductors. That means the energy loss on the conductor itself is reduced. That is what happens. That is the only thing that happens, right? Then actually it's called low loss and low sag, LCLS or LSLC. I can't remember which way. So it can carry a higher current. So because of that, some emission is reduced. And JICA gives some aid to the Bangladesh, I mean any country, right? And then they take some of the carbon credits back. That is how it goes. So carbon market actors and life cycles. This is the pillar 2, right? Now there are some roles, accountabilities, and instructions, institutions across the compliance and voluntary carbon pipeline. Now compliance is you have to do it to comply with the laws of your country, not in Sri Lanka, but I think in India, some people have to comply, right? I mean, large businesses. In Sri Lanka, voluntary carbon offset is being done mainly in the apparel and garment sector because the clients are asking for that, right? So project developers are there. They will develop the projects. They have to do the this project design documents. They have to make and submit. Then it has to be validated, a form of verification or auditing. There is a designated operating entity. This is normally the environmental ministry of the country. Even in Sri Lanka, Ministry of Environment is the DOE. And then verifying and validating and verifying bodies are there. So those people will do the validation. And the project will be registered, and then credits will be issued, and then they can be traded and exchanged. This is actually like any other commodity. Like the share market, you have various approved markets for this. And this governance is generally done by the UN FCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. They are executive board or the boards of the respective carbon registries. And IREC, this is the buzzword nowadays. Now, IREC, International Renewable Energy Certificates, is issued by ITRAC Foundation, right? Their name is ITRAC Foundation. So, ITRAC is for electricity. It is a unified standard. Now, this methodology is simpler because no baseline. Because now, if you are going to find the emission reduction, you have to know how much emission would have happened without the project. So because of the project, you have reduced the emission. Now, that sort of thing is not there for them. They don't need that. They just want how much electricity was generated. Now, for the new, the associated members and all, you have to look for these as well. EU go, European Union, guaranteed origin. It is coming for not only electricity, but for gas also. So these things are the things that are coming, right? Green hydrogen. Now, people will say, okay, we have hydrogen, but how did you make it? So there are three plus emerging methodologies for hydrogen, right? You have to keep an eye open for these things because this is the future. And these are the actors in ITRAC ecosystem. ITRAC Foundation, they set the rules and accredits issuers. That CCC carbon certificating company. They are the issuer, right? And Evident is the registry maintainer. They have a central registry for issuance, transfer, and redemption. Redemption is actually killing after that that particular rec is no longer existing, right? That same thing happens to carbon credits as well. When somebody uses, it dies, right? Accredited issuers are country level entities, but in Sri Lanka, there's no independent person for Sri Lanka, but the UK company covers Sri Lanka and some other countries as well. So registrants and end users. Registrants are those who are generating the renewable energy. End users are the people who are using for their ESG claims. ESG means environmental, social, and governance claims, right? So these are the environmental tracking certificates currently available. For electricity, there are three at the moment. ITRAC Foundation that we are talking about. European Union guarantees of origin is there. And US has RECs, Renewable Energy Certificate, and hydrogen, guaranteed origin. So they say 30 high. This is an emerging framework. Please look out for these things. ITRAC G, renewable gas, the same ITRAC Foundation, they are covering gas as well. Then there is another thing for sustainable aviation fuel. ICAO means International Civil Aviation Organization, who are looking after all international flights. COSIA, I can't remember the long name, but this is the organization looking at international sea freight. So they track the fuel footprint, and the good old carbon credits. It is a multi-sector, not like this. Even if you have a forest, you can claim for credit here. But this is covering on absolute emission reductions. These are actually tracing whether the origin is renewable. That's all. So the strategic key takeaways. Now the emission reduction based, the carbon credits were reduction based, and the new things are attribute based, and the carbon credits, the methodology review is happening. Voluntary registries are always using their methodologies based on the UNFCCC methodologies. Now, the way forward, actually, to monetize green attributes. I have some concerns. I said it's really not monetizing. It's a survival now. Because, okay, this was the old scene. A company has direct emissions because they are using machinery, transport, storage, waste. they create emissions. And so they can reduce by switching the fuel. Instead of coal, you are using LNG, and you improve your process, you improve your efficiency, and all these things are called mitigation section. I will be feeling this side, okay? And then the rest, you will be buying carbon credit. This is scope 1. You are directly controlling what you are the emissions, right? And then buy the carbon credits to offset the balance, and then you can say, okay, I am carbon neutral, right? Actually, some of our Sri Lankan companies have been doing this because mainly the garment industries and tea industries like Dilma. Now, the scope 2 is emissions due to purchased energy. You can either purchase electricity, heat, or cold. I think there are one or two factories at Katunayaka export processing zone who purchase heat. Some company just produces heat and sells the heat to these people, others. So, but electricity, of course, is mainly coming from the grid. So the electricity generation is also scope 2. Now, in the old scene, the scope 2 electricity generation was also considered here, and offsets were used to become carbon neutral. This is what has been doing, what everybody has been doing. Scope 2 was also used to neutralized using carbon credits. Now scope 3 is coming. Upstream emissions, supply chain, including where you get the raw material, mining, processing, transport, and storage. Downstream, after you make your product, you transport, store, and end of life. Say you have a tea bag and you throw it away. It's deteriorating. It produces methane, and that gives global warming. That causes global warming. All these things are coming now, right? And for all these things, of course, there can be mitigation actions. Mitigation actions are actions to reduce the emissions. But if you can't, now there will be some balances. Now you can buy renewable energy certificates. And then you can avoid emissions. You say, we didn't emit because we have been using renewable electricity. Now in the new scene, scope 2 emissions also can be coming this way, not going this way. Actually, this is cheaper because when we come to the IREX, we will see that RECs are cheaper than carbon credits. So this everybody is asking for transparency. That means following standards and doing the MRV, measuring, reporting and verification, plus auditing. Right. Typical share of emissions under different scopes. This is where the cat comes out of the bag, right? We have been neutralizing, offsetting scope 1 emissions. In the apparel industry, generally, it's only 1 to 2% of their total emissions. Scope 2, indirect, 3 to 8%. So we have been offsetting only that. Scope 3 has a hell of a lot, 90 to 95%. That is the problem. And the good thing is, your scope 3 emission is your supplier's scope 1 emission. So he will have to reduce. And when you are buying, you will insist, give me a low carbon raw material, component, whatever. Right. Now in the service sector, say even our IT companies, right? 1 to 5% will be scope 1. Scope 2 electricity will be 5 to 15%. and 80 to 95% is again in somewhere else. Scope 3, say cloud storage, data center hosting, software licenses, business travel, whatever, but all these things are coming. So barriers, so many barriers for export industries. But there are actually opportunities for renewable energy generation as well. Now, this is what we were doing. Manufacturing industries, they will try to install some rooftop solar photovoltaic, so the rooftop solar systems, and reduce their emissions and lower their energy bills. Service sector also did the same thing. And there were some RE developers, they invested, built large-scale RE projects, solar farms, whatever, and generated credits. And those credits were sold and bought by these people to offset their emissions. That is the old picture. New picture is like this. You will have to invest, not only in your own industry, invest in large renewable projects and generate RECs, renewable energy certificate, use for emission avoidance or offset. And then if you have excess RECs, you can sell them. What the government is doing? There are some government bodies and they will have to make regulations. Now, I said that there are some, there are no mandatory reporting requirements or emission reductions. This is actually like a two-sided dagger, right? When you try to put emission restrictions, the manufacturers' costs go up. But as we discussed earlier, their clients are now forcing them. So whether they are producing at a lower cost, they can't sell in the international market. So they are forced to do that. Okay, so governments can facilitate and build awareness of the people. And they have market instruments. Market instruments are only two things. They can either add taxes and levies, or they can give incentives for complying industries. Now, if you pay a tax here, I told that CBAM cross-border tax. When your product goes there, you can say, oh, I have already paid the tax in Sri Lanka, so I am not going to pay it again. So those provisions are there. So it's better to pay in rupees than paying in dollars or pounds, right? Or euros. Now, these are some small problems, right? Anybody will think. Can small systems create these IREX or whatever? Or the yes, technically they can, but practically there are problems, right? And then if a company produces renewable energy for their own use, yes, still they can claim carbon credits or IREX, because if they didn't do that, the other the alternative is to use the grid power. But double counting constraint, you must avoid counting the same thing twice, even for the RECs or credits, right? So for the small scale products, now the aggregation is necessary. Now, for example, a small rooftop solar 5 kilowatt will produce only 7.5 megawatt hours per year. So that means only 7.5 IREX or about 4.5 carbon credits, tons of CO2 per year. So standard, if you try to audit this, there's no financial gain at all. Even in the carbon crediting scenario, we had a thing called programs of activities. You aggregate small 1,000 small solar systems and take it as a single project. And then IREC has a new one. You can have API smart meters. You don't have to go anywhere to collect the data, right? So these are the things coming, and the new generation should follow up on these. Right. Financial and operational metrics, aggregation mechanism, IREX, upfront cost is negligible at for the registration, right? About 100 per asset. Yeah, that means for one project, right? So if it is a 5 kilowatt thing, it's not possible. But if you are having an aggregated one, it's possible, right? Carbon credits is extremely high, $15,000, something like that, right? Issuance fee is there. If you are exporting to the grid, I will only talk about the IREX. This you have to pay 3 cents, US cents. If it is your own consumption, 5 US cents, right? This takes only 2 to 6 weeks. This used to take 6 to 18 months, right? And monthly or quarterly you can submit. This CDM world, the credit world, and it was annually or biennially. So once in 1 year or 2 years, right? So the verification thing, actually I have only 1 minute from the 1 hour, but I'm sorry, I will have to take another 5 minutes, I think. Verification thing, actually I have now told. Why audit? Audit is always done to confirm what? Whether you are following the correct technique or methodology, that means whether you are following the standards, whether you are following approved methodologies, and whether it is appropriate for what you are doing, right? Whether data and parameters are correct. Data are two types. One is the activity data, I mean the amount of electricity that you have generated, the amount of fuel you burn, and the emission factors. How much, what is the grid emission factor, what is the calorific value of your fuel, whatever, things like that. So these things are audited, whether you are using the correct values. And definitely you have to make sure that double counting has been avoided. And then there is a thing called uncertainty. Uncertainty comes because there can be metering errors, other losses or whatever. So those things, how you have addressed, all these things have to be audited. These are common for carbon credits as well as RECs, right? So this creates transparency, and transparency creates universal credibility and buyer's confidence. So quality assurance is another thing. In carbon credits, you have to have additionality. Simply speaking, additionality means we have to tell, we can't do this project without selling the carbon credits. It's not profitable. But nobody will finance your project if you say, my project is not profitable. So there is a dilemma. And baseline auditing has to be done for carbon crediting. So this is done ex ante, right? Ex ante means before the project starts. Then ex post is done after you have actually done some work, and then you have produced the electricity. So then you have to have data quality controls, leakage mitigation. Leakage means you are shifting emissions elsewhere. Now, for example, if you are operating a zero emission car, I remember one of my cousins showed me a electric car some time back. Then it was only the Nissan Leaf. And he pointed and suddenly said, this car is running on coal. Because they say it's zero emission, zero tailpipe emission, but emission happens somewhere else because someone is burning coal to produce that electricity. So that is the leakage, right? You can just say, okay, I'm not emitting, but somebody is emitting for me. So issuance and verification has to be there. So these are the quality assurance things. So when it comes to IREX, there's only the generation audit. So the amount of electricity sent to the grid, that is all. And local issuer has to oversee. So the green certificate company, they will, I don't know how they are operating in Sri Lanka, they will audit. And again, double counting has to be audited, right? Actually, now the economic opportunity for the professionals, right? Now, I think most of us are engineers here. So the project design is completely an engineering job. And so you have roles in that. And green premium verification. So you have to do energy audits, life cycle assessments, LCA, and audit raw materials and things like that. Again, engineering jobs. And transition in advisory. Now, how these clean energy transition agreements are made and things like that. So for senior engineers, these are the things you have to get involved with. And for the students, associated members, you have to build your skills on these grid integration requirements, hydrogen storage, clean metallurgy, capture emerging green roles, right? And then, of course, carbon capture, green catalysts into proprietary startups. Now, actually, I don't have time. There are some small businesses who are just acting as brokers. They have platforms, online platforms. Like you are going to the eBay or something to buy something. You go to their platform and they show, okay, these are the RECs available. I'm sorry, I have taken another 10 minutes. So now Sri Lanka is doing some wonderful things, right? Now, actually, I want to draw your attention to things like this. Now, the ground-mounted solar farms, they were covering the ground and that ground becomes useless. Now, this is one another innovative way of doing things. Now, the tea plantation wants some shelter. So you have semi-transparent solar panels, and you have both. You are trying to enjoy both. So I don't know details, but you people can look into this. And hydrogen and ammonia hubs. So the BOI is now steering strategic drives to utilize high yield northern and eastern wind solar corridors for industrial export terminals. So things like this. Now, keep your eyes open about what is happening. Now, a similar thing like this is happening in Australia. They are rearing not cattle, sheep. They are rearing sheep in solar farms like this. These are experimental at the moment, right? So now these are the driving global trade compliance. Now you can't do the do any trade, global trade, without decarbonizing the apparel industry, and you have to show the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance, and all those things, these audits, and you must be familiar with smart grid engineering, because a smart grid is essential to integrate these renewable energy sources. So you have to study, learn on these lines. Otherwise, you will be outdated in no time, right? Right. This is what we did. Okay. We looked at our current energy scope, energy landscape, the mechanics of 5X, the importance of ISO and other standards, and why we have to follow those, and the way forward to monetize or survive our export industries, and the importance of validation and the opportunities for the professionals. And we need engineered standards and strategic capacities and collaborative impacts. And the final thing is to protect our planet, prosper our motherland, and together let's engineer a sustainable tomorrow by aligning local engineering excellence with the global mobilization against climate change. We can restore our environment while accelerating prosperity across our beloved country. So that's all. Before I hand over, I have to give a little thank you because I know it's about another maybe 10-15 minutes. I have taken more than the 1 hour allocated. But I would like to thank because some people might leave before the Q&A. That is why I want to say these thanking words now. I would like to thank IESL and the Electronics and Telecommunication Sectional Committee for providing this opportunity to address you. Engineers Navadana, Dr. Viraj and Pankaja for contacting me and making this the necessary arrangements, and the lady as well who introduced me. Sorry, I am very bad in remembering names. And the IESL, other IES staff for sending emails and facilitating this webinar. Special thanks to my old buddy engineer Vatugala who circulated the IESL email in several WhatsApp groups and to many potential participants. Last but not least, my sincere gratitude to all of you participants for your valuable time and participation. Especially to my friends like Udaya, Vatu and others who are keeping awake late at night due to the different time zones. So thanks again, and let's start this Q&A session. Okay. Handing over to you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, Engineer Dassanayake, for that insightful and thought-provoking presentation. So now, we will now proceed to the Q&A session. So the participants may drop their questions via the Zoom chat, or else y'all can raise them directly to the speaker now.
Just one thing in the chat. Thank you. Oh, sorry, mics are muted. Can the host please unmute everybody? Now it's the time to talk.
I am Piyal Hennayaka.
Yes, PL.
I want to know, can you share a actual case where Sri Lanka, someone had taken these certificates and they are performing on that basis?
Which certificate do you mean, the IREX or the
IREX.
IREX? Okay.
Yeah.
IREX, actually, I don't have at the moment for IREX because now one thing to be clear, even IREX or the carbon credits, they don't have a birth certificate, sort of, right? That is a very important step taken to prevent double counting. They are only entered in the registry. Now, for example, my father is now long gone. He passed away maybe 20 years ago. But still, I have his birth certificate. And so I can go and show that and, get something based on that, hiding the death certificate. But for IREX as well as uh, uh, the credits, they issue a death certificate like thing, right? Actually, I had some slides up my sleeve uh, because we generally have some slides to, so I can show you the some things, right? Actually, what these people have been doing in Sri Lanka, right? Uh, so, so I will have to share the screen again. Uh, okay, I will take the sharing, right? Right. Mhm. Why is not okay? Now this is something I have got from a site called Soldera, right? Soldera is a sort of a broker. This is the Sri Lankan IREC marketing numbers. They are showing this actually for the sellers. Sorry, for the buyers, not for the seller, right? This information they have taken from the IREC registry, which is maintained by the Evident, another company, right? Now, these people are authorized, right? Otherwise, not anybody can do it. I mean, not everybody can do it. They have to be accredited. So they say 112 Sri Lankan facilities with IREX issued, but and 930.3 gigawatt hours registered up to now. Actually, I got this screenshot a couple of days ago. Right? It may be a little more even. Total registered this much of megawatts. Certificates cancelled. Out of this, 22.2% has been cancelled. That means it has been used, right? So primary energy source was solar. Sri Lanka's share of total certificates issued across the global IREC market is 0.07%. This is what uh, they can what we can see. That's all. We can't see a birth certificate like of thing. Now I will show the death certificate. That is there. So this is for the both cases, right? Now you are more interested in the IREC. Now they say the international REC standard, IREC. So company XYZ Private Limited representing 1.000 so many zeros megawatt hours of renewable sources. This statement relates to this consumption company XYZ in respect of the reporting period this. This is redemption, right? Redemption means somebody has produced this company has produced 1 megawatt of renewable energy, and that attribute was transferred to XYZ, and therefore that certificate is cancelled. So this is sort of a death certificate, and this is a death registry, right? By the way, I must show this one. This is actually issued by our company. This is a death certificate for the old carbon sample, of course, carbon credit, right? And we have used the UN logo here because we are authorized to do that. Right. Did I answer your question properly? Or? Yeah, I thought nobody's there. Yeah, there are 31 people still. Thank you for your continued interest to hear me. Anyway,
Hello, sir. I'm Yadushini.
sure.
So actually, my question is concerned to the NDC targets we are having. So we are having normally a national determined contribution targets
Yeah.
according to the Paris Agreement. So whether if we having a IREC and trade that within the country, that will be okay. But how about trading the IREC with a foreign country? Whether it
Sure.
will interrupt our NDC?
Yeah, actually, IREC is not emission reduction, right? That is why it is cheap also. In the market, it's going at a very low rate. I had some figures as well, right? It's going, the carbon credits are going at high rates. Yeah, it's going at very cheap rates, right? Anyway, it's immaterial. But coming to your question, now, I had one slide at the very beginning. Yeah, this is where I think you can see the slides. Can you? Hello?
Yes, sir. We can see the slide.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Now, the NDCs, nationally determined contributions, actually try to say, okay, we have saved this much of carbon emissions. If you sell that emission, how can you say that we have saved? It's true. Now, when you are going for these internationally tradable, now these are internationally tradable, right? So these are this area is international. Now, local trading, no problem. International trading, there is a thing called uh, cancellation agreement, CA, something like that. The government, in fact, the government will be the Ministry of Environment, should agree for that sale. Otherwise, it will not happen. Because otherwise, what happens is, that is actually not for any love to our nation. That is to ensure that Sri Lanka and say China or some other country, Korea, both countries are not claiming the same emission reduction. That is why they prohibit. But when it comes to IREX, that is not a problem because your grid emission factor goes down and the country emission calculation is bound to the geography of the country, right? So it doesn't matter whether you sell the IREC or not. Actually, you are actually selling the renewable name only, not the emission reduction. Emission reduction, if you are selling cross-border, then you will have to get the that applies only to this part, right? Actually, this ITMOS, internationally tradable mitigation outcomes, are designed for country to country. So that will go on only through the government. No, this cannot be done by any individual. I mean, businesses or companies. Then there was another aspect where the cross-border comes. Sorry, I can't locate the slide. So the general thing is selling IREX internationally doesn't matter. Can we have some more questions? Or I mean, did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And other thing is on, so as you mentioned, so for a carbon credit, you say, you said the Ministry of Environment is act as a DOE. So for IREX, we don't want some that kind of entities because we can trade it within the countries also, within the countries, out of the country also. So we don't want some authorized industry thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Because you are not actually selling your emission reduction. You are not selling the emission reduction. You are selling only the something, just a renewable name. I mean, the solar farm, a solar farm can sell its renewable energy attribute, the REC, but still they have already reduced the emission. That is something else.
So we have a question in the chat. Can you add
Sure.
more information of decarbonizing of shipping sector with new developments of IMO?
Shipping. Shipping, of course, goes in a completely different pathway. I don't think I can answer that question now. That question now itself, because shipping and shipping and flying, they are considered not considered any individual country's obligations. So they are considered international obligations. And ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Authority, and COSIA or something like that. So they are the people who are looking at that things. I'm sorry, at the moment I can't, Mr. Kandavin. Of course, we can look into that, and if you drop me a mail, I will look into that and let you know. Because they are in a completely different area. We are generally working with the international organizations, I mean, for monitoring, verification, and other things, and then corporate clients. ICAO, we go to them. I mean, ICAO and COSIA, we are getting various emission rates and things from them, but how they control their emissions, they have a different system.
Yes. So if you have any further questions, we can bear.
Sorry. Yeah, ethical responsibility
Yes,
is
human explain.
human explain. Yep. Ethical means it can mean many things, right? One thing is that you are not using child labor. Now, for example, there some time ago there was a big uh, scandal about using child labor for making the silk saris in India, right? So that was not ethical for some people, but boiling and killing all these caterpillars for seal, so that was ethical for some. I mean, it's ethical for the Western countries. So that's the thing. So what is ethical again is different, right? Now, say in Sri Lanka also, we have the the International Labour Organization rules. You can't put somebody into a shift work or whatever work for more than 24 hours at a time, things like that. And about the employment of ladies without their consent and blah, blah, blah. So that is where the ethical thing comes. And human comes, you see that somewhere we talked about GSP plus, right? So, like Mr. Trump says, the buyer can always say anything. I will not buy unless this condition is satisfied, right? Yeah. See, so this is the labor and ethical standard. Zero tolerance policies for child labor, forced labor. Now we heard that there were some IT slave camps in Burma border, I think it's Burma, Thailand border, something like that. And nowadays there's some gossip that they are coming, they have come to Sri Lanka or something like that. So those are, if you are proven to be doing that, unsafe working conditions, yeah, they have even included that. So probably, if you are a garment exporter, so the buyers will ask, show us your accident reports. How many accidents have have happened during the last year? Those are the ethical. Ethical is anything can be termed ethical, right? Say now in Australia these days there is a movement about cruelty to pigs. They don't mind killing the pig and eating. No, you are not giving them enough space to live and things like that. And so that depends. Elaborate with M944CU. Mr. PFS, can you please tell that Kentilisms? Deliberate with Kentilism. I don't really get it.
I guess it's aligned with the ethical responsibilities questions. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I think the question is answered. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, with that, let's wind up the Q&A session for the today's webinar. And thank you to everyone who participated in the discussion and to Engineer Dassanayake for providing such comprehensive responses to the questions raised by the audience. So it's now my pleasure to invite Engineer Sapumal Valisundara, Operations Team Lead of the Electrical, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Sectional Committee, to deliver the vote of thanks. Engineer Sapumal, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. As we come to the end of this insightful webinar, it is my pleasant duty to deliver the vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our distinguished resource person, Engineer Indike Dassanayake, for sharing his valuable knowledge and extensive experience with us. His presentation provided a clear understanding of carbon and renewable energy credits and their relevance to Sri Lanka and opportunities for their present for industries, professionals, and the nation as a whole. Thank you, sir, for taking this time to be with us and for an engaging and informative session. I would also like to extend our sincere appreciation to the President of Institute of Engineers, Sri Lanka, Engineer Kosala Kamradini, for his continuous support and encouragement towards the activities and knowledge sharing initiatives organized by our section committee. My heartfelt thanks also goes to the Chairman of Electrical, Electronics and Telecommunications Engineering Sectional Committee, Engineer Viraj Muthukala, for his leadership, guidance, and commitment in organizing programs that create value for our members and the engineering community. I also like to acknowledge the dedication and hard work of ISL EETESC Sectional Committee, whose efforts behind the screens made today's event a success. Our sincere thanks are due to ISL Secretariat for their invaluable administrative and technical support for facilitating this webinar. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants who joined us in this evening. Your presence, interest, and engagement are what made event like this meaningful and worthwhile. With that, we conclude today's webinar. We look forward to meeting you again at future ISL EETSC webinars. Thank you and have a pleasant evening, everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yes, so thank you, Engineer Sapumal, for the vote of thanks. On behalf of the Electrical, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering Sectional Committee of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, I extend our sincere gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Engineer Indike Dassanayake, for sharing his extensive knowledge and experience with us this evening. We also thank all the participants for joining today's webinar and contributing to its success through your active engagement. We look forward to welcoming you to future EETESC knowledge sharing events. Until then, stay connected and continue supporting Sri Lanka's journey towards a sustainable and resilient energy future. Thank you and have a pleasant evening.